Hello, welcome to the Antisocial Club. I'm Diamondalexis. I am so excited to finally be getting y'all this satin crochet durag. I worked on this at the beginning of the year. I'm just now finally getting it out. We're 6 months in. Better late than never, right? Just want to say, please read the screen. I do explain a lot more on the text on the screen. So if you're not understanding what I'm saying as I'm speaking it, just read the screen. Hopefully that'll clarify. So excited to be getting y'all this. Hopefully y'all really love it. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Thank y'all so much for watching and enjoy. So what we're gonna need is a 6mm hook. And then we're going to need some satin ribbon. I will link it down below. That is how we're gonna make our satin durag. What I'm gonna do is do this tutorial on a smaller scale, but to make a full-size durag, what you'll do is you'll either, if you want a short durag, you'll chain 60. If you want a medium durag, you'll chain 80, and then if you want a long durag, you will chain 100. If you want it shorter, you can make it shorter. If you want it longer, then the chain 100, you can make it longer. I usually do intervals of like 60, 80, 100, so like 20. You don't have to do that, but that's what I'm doing. But yeah, so what I'm gonna do, you can do the yarn like this, just use it regular. If you're gonna use the regular, like the yarn regular without tripling it up, I would use a smaller hook size. I would say maybe a size 5 hook if you're just gonna use it like this, but I want mine thick, so we're going to triple it. And how you do that is you have your end piece. You're going to take this, you're going to curve it around just like so. So see how it makes like a loop. So you go whoop, 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 and there's 3. 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3. You're gonna put those together. I'm gonna make mine longer. I'm gonna make it even longer because remember we're doing a slip knot. So I'm just pulling it to make it longer. And what I'm gonna do is go ahead and do my slip knot. Put my hook through. That way it stays. And so see, you come down here, you have the loop, and then you have the working yarn or ribbon. You're gonna put your 2 fingers through, gonna grab the working yarn or ribbon, pull that through, and see how it makes another loop. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And you're just gonna keep doing that whenever you run out of ribbon. This one will be one continuous thing. In my other durag tutorial, I have it where you do 2 panels. This one, I'm just gonna do one big thing, and then only thing we're gonna do is sew the very top of the durag. So I'm only gonna chain about 20, but see, I'm running out of like the 3. So what you wanna do is put your fingers back through, grab it, and you're just gonna pull it. You're gonna do that every time you come to the end where you can see the loop. You're just gonna pull this through, and then you wanna make sure you bring this around, and that way you have 3 again. Okay, so now we have 30. What I'm gonna do is chain 4, 2, 3, 4. Actually, I'm gonna do 3. Let's just do 3. Chain 3, yarn over, and we're gonna start with our double crochets. And we're gonna start doing a mesh stitch. So, which is a double crochet, and then you chain 1. And then you're gonna skip a stitch, go into the next stitch, double crochet, chain 1, skip a stitch. So you're skipping this stitch, you're gonna go into the next one, double crochet, chain 1. If you don't want to do a mesh stitch, you would just do double crochet, double crochet, double crochet, double crochet. You just go all the way down. You wouldn't chain one and you wouldn't skip a stitch. Again, you want to make sure you're paying attention to where the end of the loop is. I'm at the end, so I'm gonna take it, put my fingers, pull that through. You want to make sure you have 3. So there's the 3. Okay, so we're here at the end. We have this one left. I'm gonna go ahead and put a double crochet in there. Oh gosh. Just like so. So this is what it'll look like. If I can get it to go straight. So once you're here, we're going to chain 4, 4, turn your work. For my pink one, I did a row of mesh stitch, and then I just did a row of regular double crochets. So if you want to do it like the pink one where you have mesh stitch, regular double crochets, mesh stitch, regular double crochets, what you would do is you would just go into this space. So there's this space here. You would just go into the space, do a double crochet, go into where you're on top of the double crochet, like how we would regularly do a mesh stitch. So you would go there, do a double crochet. You're not chaining 1. Go into that space, do a double crochet. Go into the top of that double crochet from the last row, put a double crochet, and you would just do that all the way down. So then you'd have a row of the mesh stitch, and then you'd have a row where it's just regular double crochets. And that's how my pink one was made. So I'm just gonna do the mesh stitch. So the mesh stitch, you would do the chain 1, skip, go into the top of that double crochet from the last row, double crochet it, chain 1, skip, double crochet, chain 1. So it looked like that. Okay, so we're at the end, and that is our last double crochet on that previous row, but you still want to make sure you put a double crochet in this hole right here at the very end, because if not, that would be you decreasing, and you don't want to decrease. So you want to make sure you put a double crochet in that hole still. If you're doing a double crochet, whatever you're doing, you still want to always make sure you put a stitch in this last hole. So chain 4, you're gonna turn your work like we've been doing, but this time we want to increase. So this is gonna keep us from having to sew. Also, a lot of people were talking about the flap I had in my original Durag pattern. I had the flap there because you can put your tag for your business. So if you're selling them, you can put your tag where that flap is on the inside. And I just sew the flaps down, so it's not like flapping, but I put my tags there because it just gives me somewhere to put my tags. But I know a lot of people hated those flaps. But this will get away from having those flaps. So we're going to increase, and how you increase is you're gonna still chain 4. We're gonna do a double crochet, but we are going to put a double crochet in here where this chain is. So you're gonna go into that stitch and do a double crochet, and then chain 1. So see how that puts 2 there, and then you'll just continue like normal. where you go on top of the double crochet and then chain 1. And we're going to do that for every other row. So you're going to increase on rows 3, 5, 7, 9, and then 11. So all the odd number rows. Okay, so we're at the end again. Remember, when you're at the end, a lot of people miss this part. When I would get pictures of people saying mine is not coming out right, usually y'all forget to put a stitch here. So you want to make sure you put a stitch in this last hole at the very end of the row. So you're just going to go through that hole and then do a double crochet, and that'll keep your work from decreasing. Chain 4, 3, 4, and we're going to start regular again. Again, we're doing the odd numbers every other row. So we did row 3, no increase on row 4. Now we're on row 5. We're going to do an increase. Again, yarn over, put it in there where the chain is. You're going to put it in that same stitch, do a double crochet, chain 1, and then we're going to start back like regular, where we're just going on top of the double crochet from the previous row. So you're just going to do it like that, and just go from there, and you're going to do your double crochets all the way down, so you can see where it's already curving. See how it's going at an angle? Yeah. You can put a stitch marker. You know, we just did an increase here, so you can put a stitch marker right here. So again, remember, you're just gonna increase on every other row starting at row 3. So we increased on row 3, we increased on row 5, we increased on row 7, you'll increase on row 9, and then you'll increase on row 11 as well. When I get to row 11, I'll come back. Row 11 is where we're gonna start our strap. Okay, so this is row 11 that I'm doing currently. Remember, you have that increase that I just did. So for a regular do-rag, if you're doing the mesh stitch, you want to do the mesh stitch till you get to 20. So you want to do it to about 20. So we just count the stitches. So that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Continue on, and you would do it to 20. Obviously, mine's not going to be to 20 because mine is shorter. But if you're doing a regular do-rag, so whether it's a size, whether you chained 60 at the beginning, whether you chained 80, 100, whatever you chained, doesn't matter. Your strap will not change. You still want to do it to 20. If you're not doing the mesh stitch, you would do probably like 40, I believe, because you would count in between these. Once you get it to your 20 or 40, we're going to start our chain. So this is going to be where our tail is. And in order to get that tail, you're going to have your strap come off of the do-rag. So we're going to leave this blank, so we're no longer working down here anymore. We're going to start our strap, and we're going to do a chain. For the straps, you would want to do about 80. So where I have my hand, this is the front of the chain. I'm going to try to explain this part really detailed because this is what most people have problems with in my other tutorial. This is the front of the chain. You don't want to work into the front of the chain. You want to work into the back. We're doing a mesh stitch, so we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're not doing a mesh stitch and you're just doing like a regular double crochet, I would do chain of 2, just because you don't want a gap in between. So I would do a chain of 2. But again, this is the front of the chain. You want to double crochet into the 5th stitch from the hook. So remember, you don't count this that's on the hook. That doesn't count as a stitch. This starts the stitch. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Where my finger is, you want to put a double crochet into there. But remember, this is the front of the chain. You don't want to do the front of the chain, so you want to turn it to the back, and this is the back. Also, how you can tell, the front, the one loop will be at the top, and then the 2 loops will be at the bottom. But we want to work at the back, so the 2 loops will be at the front, and then the 1 loop will be at the bottom. So again, front, turn, this is the back, and what we're gonna do is double crochet into this 5th one in the back of the chain. So you're gonna put a double crochet right there. Hopefully that explains it a lot better than how I did it in my first tutorial for a durag. Honestly, I haven't looked at it in a while, so I don't know how I explained it, but hopefully this explains it a lot better. So again, you still want to skip a stitch. So this is a stitch, you're going to skip that one. We're going to go into this next one. Again, you know it's the back because you have the 2 at the top and then the 1 at the bottom, which is just like more bulky at the top, and then this one is not as bulky. So that's how you know it's the back of the stitch. We're going to put a double crochet in there. Chain 1. Again, that's a stitch. Gonna skip that one, go into this next one. Double crochet. I got confused for a second. Chain 1, skip, next one. And we're just gonna do that all the way to the bottom. So because we're coming back down, see, my work is still facing this way. You want to turn it like that. That way your work is facing the correct way. So that way you're working this way instead of your brain thinking you're working that way still. Remember, we're working this way. I think too, that's why a lot of people got confused. I don't think a lot of people were turning their work. All right, so we're at the back at the base where the actual durag is. So see, that's the strap. See how we turned it? Now we're back here. And what you want to do is put your double crochet there. Oh my gosh, I'm already out. Jeez. Hold on. Okay, so see, it's back connected to the base of the durag, and we're just going to continue like normal and do our mesh stitch. So we're at the end, same thing, put in the hole, 2, 3, 4. We're no longer increasing, so we're going to turn our work. And we're going to, you know, we've been putting a double crochet into this one, but we're not increasing anymore. So you're just going to go back and start putting it into the double crochet from the last row. Just like so. And since we didn't increase, I'm not going to put a stitch marker there. I'm only putting a stitch marker everywhere we increased at. That way it'll help when we start doing the other side. You'll know where we increased. That way you'll know, okay, I need to increase here because this is where I increased on the other side. And what I do to end it off, I just chain 1 and then pull it, and that's it. Remember, you want to go through that hole at the end. So what I make sure I do is I always make sure to pull the loop through. So what I'm gonna do is cut it right here, pull that loop through, and that'll be the end. We have this one side done. Now we're going to start on the other side. Okay, so same thing. gonna triple it up. So remember, you're just gonna swirl it around, and then you have your 3. We're gonna use this as our slip knot. So we're just gonna make our slip knot. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to put this into where we have our first double crochet. You want to yarn over. So yarn over, put it through, pull the stuff through, pull through 2, pull through 2, and then you have your first double crochet. And everywhere you see a double crochet, that's where you're gonna put a double crochet. Oh, I forgot to chain 1. So double crochet, chain 1. So see, I have a double crochet there, I have a double crochet there, I have a double crochet here. So I'm gonna put a double crochet there. Double crochet there. I'm just gonna do that all the way down. Okay, so we're coming to the end. I'm gonna put a double crochet there. And remember, you wanna put a double crochet there as well. That way they match up. Chain 4. And keep in mind, see our increases are up here. You want to keep that in mind. You don't want to do your increases down on this side. This is where you want it to be straight. You want your increases down here. So instead of increasing at the beginning of the 3rd row, like, or the odd number rows like we've been doing, you're gonna start increasing at the end of those rows. Okay, so that is row 1. What I like to do as well, as I go, I put the rows together. So I know this row and this row go together. So I'm going to put a stitch marker between these 2. That lets me know, okay, when I fold it over, it'll match up like that. And that'll also help. That way you know like what you're looking at, because it gets a bit confusing. When I do this one, so like I'm about to turn, do our double crochet mesh stitch. Remember, there's no increasing until the 3rd row, so we're just gonna do this row like normal, no increasing. And remember, because we're doing the opposite side of the do-rag, why do I keep forgetting to chain 1? We're not increasing at the beginning of this row anymore. We're gonna increase at the end of the row. So remember, we're at the end of the row. This one has the knot from the chain that we did, so we're just gonna go through that knot and do our double crochet. 3, 4. So this is what it looks like. Remember, these 2 go together, and then these 2. So we'll just put a stitch marker to let us know, okay, this is the 2nd row. And you know, usually what we've been doing is we've been doing an increase at the beginning of the 3rd row, because you know we were putting a double crochet in here where the chain is. But as you can see on this side, the increases are not on this side, they're down here. So we're not going to do an increase on this end. We're going to do it at the end of the row instead of at the beginning of the row, because there's no increases here. Which is why I said the stitch markers might help. I mean, you can look at it until that's where the increasing is, but yeah. So we're gonna do like regular. So remember, this is where we're going to start increasing, because this is our increase for our third row, so we can match it on that side. And what you're going to do here is you're just going to basically put another double crochet into this hole where we have this one at. So you're just going to put another double crochet like so, and that'll be your increase. So you just would put 2 double crochets and then chain 4 and then turn your work. But what I like to do is I do like to match them on this side as well. That way I don't have to do it at the end when I'm sewing. So as you can see, now we have the matching sides over here. And then we're gonna turn our work. We're gonna do our double crochets like regular. You're just gonna go into the top of that double crochet. If you need to, we're gonna put a stitch marker down here to make sure we're matching up the rows. This will help you also keep track of how many rows you need to do. Okay, so remember, you're going to that space at the very end. Remember, we're not increasing at the end of, the beginning of the row. We're going to increase at the end. This is the 5th row, so you're just going to turn your work, and then when you get to the end, you'll increase. Okay, we're at the end of this row. This is row 5, the end of row 5. So again, you're going to go into that space, double crochet, and then we're going to go in that same space again, and that'll be our increase. And that's our increase for this row. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to pin these 2 rows together. Yeah, you're just going to do that for, again, every other row. So that's 3, that's 5. We're going to do row 7, 9, and then 11, of course. I'm going to come back when I get to row 10. When I get to row 10, I will let y'all know what we're doing. So I'm at the end of row 10. Just doing these last few. So we're going to end this one right here. I'm going to take this out. Just like that. That's pretty long. I could have cut it shorter. And what I'm going to do is start up again. I'm gonna do a slip knot. And I'm going to start it back up here. What I'm gonna do is go into the top of this up here. Just do like we did last time. Do a yarn over, do a double crochet. And remember, this is row 11, so we're going to do an increase. So we're just going to put another double crochet here. Chain. And you're going to do the same thing on the other side, like we did on the other side. We're starting the strap on row 11. So you want to make sure you do it to 20 if you're doing the mesh stitch, or 40 if you're not doing the mesh stitch. So now we're going to do our chain. 5, 6, 7. This is how we turn. So you're just going to chain 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember, this is the front of the chain, so we're going to turn it, and that is the back. The bulky part is on your left. The singular part is on your right. If the bulky part is on your right and the singular part is on your left, that means you're on the front. You need to be on the back. So you're just gonna turn it. So front, back, 5th chain from the 5th stitch from the hook. I can't talk. And we're gonna do a double crochet, chain 1. Remember, we're working the opposite way, so you're going to turn this, and we're going to go back the opposite way. So we're going back this way so it can connect. Okay, so remember we're gonna skip a stitch. Whoa. Double crochet, chain 1, skip a stitch. I'll come back when I get down to the base of the do-rag. And you're just going to put it into that, which is on top where that last stitch is before we started our long chain for our strap. Just gonna put a double crochet there, and then we're gonna keep it going all the way to the other side, and then of course chain 4, and then turn it around, and then we're gonna go back the other way. Remember, we're going in here, so 1, 2, 3, 4. We're gonna turn. This is our last row, but I'm gonna go all the way down, and then I'll be back when I finish this row. And remember, we're going in that hole there, so we're gonna just do a double crochet there. Then we're gonna chain 1, and that's it. We're gonna cut that about there. And pull it through. And that's it. So let's see. And so now what we're gonna do is we're just going to crochet along here, and see there's no flap, but it's still curved. So it'll curve like that. What I'm gonna do also, I'm gonna take these out because we don't need these anymore. For all the ends, you would just weave them in, tie them up together. I'm gonna take my 5mm hook. And we're just gonna do single crochets. And what I like to do is put at least 2 or 3 in a stitch. It'll be easier if you remove the stitch markers. So I'm just putting about 2 or 3. I'm removing the stitch markers. I'm just putting them together with a single crochet. Just like so. Okay, now we're at the end. Let's do this last one. Chain 1, pull it through, cut it. And that's it. I'm gonna take this off, turn it inside out. You can see. So it'll look like this. It'll be a do-rag. This one is obviously a lot smaller, but this is how you would do it. Hopefully that's not too confusing. Hopefully it makes sense. You can make it like you make the other one, my original one. You can do it that same way, but also this way, I know a lot of people hated the seam. There's no seam. You only have a seam at the top, but because it's the satin, you can't really tell. A lot of people I know asked in my other one, could you put a border here? You could, but remember you'd have to bring it all the way down. That's the only thing, but you could put a border here, definitely. If you feel like that would make it look better for you, you can do that. But yeah, all you'd have to do is weave in the ends, tie them off, cut them. And what